Thank you very much. Good morning. Let me know if I'm too loud. I tend to speak very loud. Thank you very much for being here. This is an impressive outing for the last day of a conference. Let me tell you this. Adam, thanks a lot for that wonderful introduction. You can see my brief bio on the screen, so I'm not going to repeat myself. It's okay if you cannot pronounce my name correctly. I've been called a whole lot worse. Today, I want to talk about the unique challenges of marketing to engineers and industrial buyers. These are based on my own experience of working with manufacturers, distributors, and engineering companies over the past 30+ years. Along the way, I'll cite research findings from independent studies, and I'll share a few true stories from my own experience. So what are these industrial marketing challenges that I'm talking about? Let me start with a quick show of hands. How many of you work in marketing? And how many of you are in management? I don't think it's even, but okay. That's good. I work with both upper management as well as in-house marketing people for my client side. So I hear and see their challenges and frustrations firsthand. Probably many of my industrial clients have more questions than answers when it comes to marketing to engineers. The single biggest complaint that I hear from sales teams, marketing just doesn't understand engineering problems. Yes, the line between our personal and professional lives has blurred quite a bit, but engineers make buying decisions very differently at work than they do in their personal lives. So marketing to engineers is different from general B2B or B2C marketing. I should know. I'm an engineer and I'm in marketing. But I can also tell you that engineers do not hate marketing, but they can see through marketing fluff very easily. I'm going to spend the rest of my presentation talking about some of these challenges and how to overcome them. Let me first start with what I consider are 3 key differences as I see them in my work, and I've got them listed over here. Number 3 is highlighted because it's very specific to industrial marketing, and I'm going to go into more details about it a little later in my presentation. The chart that you're seeing right now is from the latest research published by IEEE Global Spec. It's called the 2019 Trends in Industrial Marketing. If you face some or all of these challenges, you're not alone, though I don't know if that's any consolation. Notice how measuring ROI is the toughest or the biggest challenge. Not being able to accurately measure ROI is much more than just a marketing problem. It has a strong bearing on getting buy-in from upper management and proving the accountability of your marketing team. Because of the difficulties in measuring ROI, many manufacturing marketers are simply giving up on it. And those that are measuring, only a little over half say they're any good at it. Another big problem that I see in industrial marketing is one of attribution, meaning how do you correctly measure or attribute marketing's contribution to sales and revenues. You're dealing with long and complex sales cycles with multiple stakeholders at different points in the buying journey. Let me give you an example to illustrate this problem. Let's say you're a manufacturer of industrial components and parts. You run PPC ads on Google. Somebody clicks on one of your ads and visits your landing page. but that person leaves without taking any action. After a week or so, you notice someone else from that company, or maybe it's even the same person, is on your website reading one of your blog posts, and then they go on to read a case study or an application note. But once again, that visitor leaves without taking any action. A month or so later, you get an email from an engineer from that company inquiring about a specific application. You get your engineers involved, and several conversations take place discussing that application. Finally, after several more months, you get an RFQ from someone in the purchasing department of the company, and that's how the lead gets entered into your CRM system. So the question becomes, was it the PPC ad, the blog post, or the conversations with your engineers that created this opportunity? It would be easy to give 100% of the attribution to the last interaction. After all, that's how the lead got entered into your system. I call this the last click syndrome. The problem with this approach is it'll probably lead you to making some bad assumptions, and which in turn is going to lead to a distorted industrial marketing strategy. On the other hand, you may be asking yourself, how does it matter, as long as we have a qualified lead in a system? With lumping everything together in one basket, you're going to find it very difficult to measure and understand what is working and what is not. So you see, attribution in industrial marketing is not easy. I think this famous quote from John Wanamaker sums up the problem very nicely. Don't let this happen to you. This chart is also from the research done by IEEE Global Spec, and it shows that younger engineers under the age of 35 spend considerably longer time online for work-related purposes, much more than older engineers. It is important to understand this age difference among engineers. Many of these younger engineers are tasked with finding information at the early stage of the buying cycle or the needs awareness stage. The information that they gather, they share internally with senior engineers and other stakeholders. Some of those people may never visit your website, read your content, or interact with your salespeople. I've also seen the same younger engineers who are specifiers. They may have very little or no buying authority whatsoever. But let's continue with our example of manufacture of components. It is going to be difficult for you to get to the RFQ stage unless your component is designed in by one of these specifiers. You may get the purchase order from somebody in the purchasing department, but that is not likely to happen until the component is specified by a specifier. This is something very unique and different in industrial marketing, where you're dealing with two kinds of buyers. One's a specifier, and the other one is a functional buyer. I don't know how many of you remember these green Thomas registers. I see some hands at the back. They used to be the Bible in industrial sales. You may be marketing in the past tense if you've developed all your buyer personas based on senior engineers and rely on old relationships that your sales has built over time. This point was made very clear to me by one of my clients. He's a manufacturer of leak detection systems and sells primarily to the automotive and the medical device industries. He told me that one of his longtime customers was close to retiring. His customer advised him to reach out to the younger engineers within his company and start building new relationships. His reasoning was these younger engineers may not know about some of the engineering and technical problems that my client had solved for his customers. Without this background information, these younger engineers may go looking for solutions somewhere else. So it is important that your industrial marketing wins the mind share of younger engineers, and builds new relationships. We hear a lot about how buying behavior has changed, and that is true. So how does that impact your industrial marketing? Many of today's industrial buyers are in self-select and self-serve mode. They prefer to do their own research and remain anonymous for most of the time. I am sure you've either heard or read that today's buyers complete 60 to 70% of the buying journey before they contact sales. They don't need to or want to talk to your salespeople to get product information. So these informed buyers have made it difficult for your sales team to get meaningful face time to reach key decision makers. That does not mean salespeople are not needed anymore or that they have become obsolete. At least that's not what I see in industrial sales. But it does mean that salespeople have to change their game plan from cold calling to informed calling. That requires a big shift in the mindset from what we have to sell to something that is based on how can we help our customers do what they want done. In the past, marketing owned the message and sales owned the relationship. Today, we need a more blended approach. Neither sales nor marketing can do it all by themselves because the buyer is in charge of a larger portion of the sales process. The adage, buyer beware, has now been turned on its head to seller beware. So it is these changes in buyer behavior that's forcing manufacturers to change their way they market to the industrial buyer. It is not because marketing consultants like myself are asking them to change. Most manufacturers have heard or read the success stories from content marketing. But I also find that many of these companies are not really sure how to execute on that strategy. Another quick show of hands. How many of you are already doing content marketing? Okay, quite a few of you. That's great. Let me explain why this is important. I spend a lot of my time educating my new clients on the benefits of industrial content marketing. Believe me, it's not an easy sell. It takes a lot of time and effort on my part to convince them. They do come around slowly but surely. So how do I overcome their objections and pushbacks? Let me share a few talking points that have worked well for me. Maybe it'll help you the next time you're at a budget meeting or if you have to make a stronger business case if your company is still sitting on the fence with content marketing. This chart, this chart is from engineering.com. It shows that digital publications are the most popular format of content consumed by engineers. So then it makes sense to use that format to reach and target engineers and technical professionals. Notice that though the second most popular format is online training. This is also important in industrial marketing. Those same younger engineers that I've been talking about are hungry for knowledge. They want to keep their skills current. They are looking to their vendors to provide that valuable training because in-house resources have become more scarce due to retirements and cutbacks. Manufacturing marketers have taken notice. The use of audiovisual content, which includes webinars, has grown significantly. It is now at 66%, according to this chart from the Content Marketing Institute. If you ask any successful salesperson, she or he will tell you that trust is the ultimate currency in sales. But they will also tell you that trust must be earned. And that is exactly what industrial content marketing will do for you. Content that helps you earn trust will help you generate better quality leads and make your salespeople far more productive. When you have earned that trust, it'll help you differentiate your company when there is parity in value propositions. The assumption has always been in content marketing that if you create high quality content that speaks to your expertise, it'll create thought leadership. Thought leadership will resonate with engineers, and it should lead to more sales opportunities. Does that assumption really hold up in the real world? The short answer is yes. This chart, which is also from engineering.com, shows that 36% of engineers will ask for an RFP after reading thought leadership content. That proportion is higher at 41% for senior leadership. With content marketing, once you've built your audience, you own it. You no longer have to pay rent to buy advertising space. This is very similar to buying a home versus renting a home. Over time, you're going to build equity versus continuing to spend money for the use of that space. Now, don't confuse this with paid content distribution. The cost per lead does come down with content marketing, and that is sweet music to your upper management. But, and you knew there was a but coming, content marketing is a process. It is not a one-off campaign. It takes time for it to gel before it can produce measurable and repeatable results. You have to make it clear to your management that content marketing is not a quick fix for slow sales. Most industrial marketers will tell you that their number one goal is generating leads. And yes, that is true to a very large extent. But notice how manufacturing content marketers have used content to achieve many other goals over the past 12 months. This chart is from Manufacturing Content Marketing Budgets and Trends, which is also from the Content Marketing Institute. Conventional content assets like blog posts, ebooks, and white papers are very good at generating top of the funnel leads. But you're going to need something more than that in industrial marketing. You want to move your buyers closer to their buying decision quickly and in a logical manner. I'm talking about sales enablers. Now, these are very different from lead nurturing. I understand sales enablement means a lot of different things to different people. I will focus on sales enablers as it relates to industrial content marketing. Downloadable CAD files and e-catalog solutions are probably two of the most effective sales enablers that I have seen for connecting with engineers. This chart is from the research published by Cadenas Part Solutions. The first pie chart shows when a CAD file is downloaded, it leads to an actual sale 81% of the time. That's not all. Look at the second pie chart. There is a big or a strong multiplier effect. With these kind of numbers, it should be a whole lot easier to prove ROI of industrial marketing. Now, downloadable CAD files are not the only kind of sales enablers. I've used other content assets to help my clients generate sales qualified leads. I've listed a few of them here because the list is quite long. Now for the final poll. How many of you work with your in-house subject matter experts while creating content? Good, quite a few hands. Let me show you why this is so important. Engineers place the highest trust on content generated by an engineering expert at the vendor company. One engineer to another is a very powerful strategy to reach engineers and build relationships with them. We often hear that engineers make buying decisions strictly based on facts. I'm here to tell you that is a myth. There is a strong emotion that is at play here. It is the fear of failure. By bringing your engineering experts to the forefront, you're providing that valuable assurance to your audience that is already skeptical about the content that a vendor puts out. Engineers expect and respect content that is technically accurate, presented in a logical manner, and claims that are backed by proof of concept. Now, obviously, SMEs are busy doing what they do best. So you cannot expect them to create the content for you. It is our responsibility as industrial marketers to coax the main talking points out of them. And as an industrial content marketer, it is our job to expand on those bullet points and turn it into compelling, customer-centric content. The point I'm going to make here is marketing can do all the heavy lifting, but it must remain in the background. Publish the content under the names of your SMEs so they are in the forefront. What you're seeing on this slide is the typical process that I follow when I work with my clients' SMEs. Every consultant that I know of wants to talk about content marketing strategy first. And there is a very good reason for it. And I'm not the only one who's saying that. This chart from the Content Marketing Institute shows the importance of a documented content marketing strategy. Conversely, it shows how few manufacturers actually have one. I once had a VP of business development tell me that they do not spend any time creating a content marketing strategy. Their president has it all up in his head, and he tells them who to contact and what to write. I have found many industrial marketers who are really not sure what a content marketing strategy is or what it is supposed to do for them. To them, a to-do list is their strategic plan. The problem with the to-do list that I see is it tends to focus primarily on addressing the what questions. It's difficult for a list to address the who and the why questions. And those two are important in creating a good content marketing strategy. Let me share a true story with you, and that might drive home this point. The director of marketing at a manufacturer of adhesives and sealants called me for help with their content marketing. They had created this elaborate Excel spreadsheet with topics and dates, and he wanted me to create the content for them. I was very excited at first until I started asking some questions. This was a very long conversation, so why don't I just keep quiet and walk you through a summary of it? This is how the conversation went. You can guess how the rest of the conversation went. The point I'm trying to make here is don't jump right into content creation until you know your audience well, the buyer personas, their challenges, and the roles that they play in the buying process. There is a big difference between content creation and content marketing. Let the to-do list come out of the strategy and not the other way around. I have also seen many industrial marketers who rely 100% on their website or their blog for their audience to discover their content. Yes, they do SEO. Yes, they do some social media marketing, but that's not enough. In the past, industrial marketers have paid very little attention to content distribution. And as a result, it got very little of the budget too. That is changing. The chart that you're seeing on this slide is also from engineering.com, and it shows that back in 2017, content distribution received only 15% of the total spend. That has more than doubled to 34% in 2019. Everybody talks about sales and marketing alignment, and I know you know it's not something easy to achieve. Let me talk about a specific approach using industrial content marketing to gain sales and marketing alignment. Just in case you're not familiar with those two terms, MQLs are marketing qualified leads, and SQLs are sales qualified leads. It's important to understand the differences between those two. I've highlighted a part of the funnel in yellow and have labeled it Sales Accepted Leads, or SAL. SAL is where you achieve marketing nirvana, i.e. sales and marketing alignment. SAL is what makes sales and marketing come together and ask them to come up with a unified definition of a qualified lead. That's not all. Sales agrees to take follow-up action on all SAL leads. It agrees to provide feedback to marketing so they can refine the lead definitions and the lead scores over time. This is what makes a good closed-loop industrial marketing strategy. Without SAL, you're probably going to have sales and marketing pointing fingers at each other when things don't go right. Sales will continue to blame marketing for generating only crappy leads. So the key point here is use the full potential of industrial content marketing to generate MQLs, nurture them until they become SALs, then hand them off to sales for them to qualify into SQLs and turn them into RFQs and wins. Let me end my presentation with some actionable takeaways. Obviously, these takeaways are based on my own experience. And I realize not all of these takeaways are going to be relevant to everybody in this room. What I'd like you to do is find at least one takeaway that you feel is very relevant to you and you're excited about implementing it when you get back to work. I'll be happy to expand on any of these takeaways during a Q&A session. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll be happy to take your questions. Thank you.